Hi everybody, my name is Abraham and I'm your big brother in recovery, coming back to you with some more educational videos about your recovery. If this is your first time coming to the channel, please subscribe and press the like button beneath, and by all means leave me a comment, because the more I learn, the less I find out I know. I am only a sober person that offers newcomers suggestions on recovery. That's it. That's all. I like to jump right off into what we're going to talk about today, because our world is in such a tumultuous, terrible time right now, to where as though people are losing hope because of racial divide, social injustice, economic situations are looking perilous, forest fires, all kinds of things are happening, and people need to be encouraged that they could do better, and that better is on the horizon. So what I want to talk about today is, what is our message? There's so many people that are seeking and searching for answers to their problems, whether they be physical, financial, mental, but we know the solution is spiritual, because our book tells us that on page 42 in the second paragraph. As a matter of fact, I'd like to read it for you real quickly. Then they, meaning the more than 100 men and women who found the solution, outlined the spiritual answer, which is step 2, and program of action, which 100 of them had followed successfully. So they're telling us in the book that the answer is spiritual. But guess what? There's so much evil and hatred going around, but there is yet still hope for our situations. So like I said, today I want to talk about, what is our message? There's so many people who are being ravished by several things, from COVID-19 to addiction. And I truly believe that addiction is 100% treatable. How do I know that? I personally have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, but I am not cured, right? Because one is still too many for me, and 1,000 not enough. So today I want to talk about, and I thank all of you for your comments about the last video, Director's Cut, when we talked about the projector being your mind, the film being your thinking, and the screen being your actions or your life. And we said in conclusion, if you don't like what's on the screen, your life, you have to change your thinking, which is your mind. But there's one above the producer. You are the producer. There's one above the producer, which is the director. And when you get off track, the director says cut and edits that part out, so he can get you back focused on what the screenplay is saying. And once you get back focused and you memorize or get yourself together, action. Simple. Program of action. So, without further ado, as we often say, oh, and by the way, please vote. We got 50 more days to vote, because if you don't like what's going on in our world, your voice does matter. So please vote in order to change what's going on. Enough of that being said, I like to talk about what our message really is. And you're going to be shocked to find out what it's not. I was shocked. I asked a few people this week, what is our message? And I heard various things. But I'm going to show you where it's found, and I'm going to show you what a lot of us are under the misconception that it is. Many would say our message, Alcoholics Anonymous, is to be clean. Well, guess what? I can get clean and never get sober. But I can't get sober without first getting clean, because our book says that our program is a program of entire abstinence. You got to give me a minute here because my book is falling apart, and that brings me to an Abrahamism. A big book that's falling apart is usually owned by someone who isn't. So I'm not falling apart, but my book is, so bear with me. You can be clean and never get sober. Talking about our message now, stay with me. But you can't get sober without first getting clean. And guess what many people are promoting right now? Clean. I get that. Clean time. Celebrate your sobriety date. Let's talk about two different words here. Clean and sober. And is a conjunction which ties two statements together. Let's look at clean. Found on Roman numeral page 30. XXX. The doctor's opinion. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph. Last sentence in the paragraph. Our only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. So clean is entire abstinence. In other words, if you haven't used something in the last 24 hours, you're clean. But guess what? You want to pursue sobriety. But let me tell you something that's going to be interesting. Many people think sobriety is our goal, to just be sober. Watch this. I'd like to draw your attention to page 82. Page 82. This is going to be shocking to you. I'd like for you to look at the last paragraph on page 82. Now we know clean is entire abstinence. That's a great place to start. But guess what? We got to do more than be clean. We have to pursue sober. Clean and sober, or sobriety. That's why I named this Sobriety Society International. Watch this. Go to page 82. Look at the last paragraph. But watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's read the paragraph. The alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead, affections have been uprooted, selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. Notice this sentence. We feel a man is unthinking or unwise when he says that sobriety is enough. So wow, our message isn't even sobriety. That's interesting. Notice something. So what is our message? It's found on the most unread page in the big book. Most people never see it. The story page, the cover page. Watch this. Notice right up under Alcoholics Anonymous. Notice what it says. The story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. Notice in the 12th step, it says something really interesting. It's 3 parts. It says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics. What is the message we try to carry? There it is right there. That we can recover from alcoholism. Now this is going to be probably a 3-part video, but I'm just going to give you something to feast on right now. The message is found right in the title page under the word Alcoholics Anonymous. The story. Let's look at 3 words. What is a story? A story is basically an eyewitness on account of incidents and events that have happened. Or there are 2 types of stories. There's a fictional and there's a non-fictional. Fictional, untrue. Non-fictional, truth. How do I know this story is true? Well, it tells me that on page 50, give me a second, 58. Look at the second paragraph. The more than 100 men and women who I can't argue with because collectively they're sharing with me their eyewitness account on what happened. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. Notice what they said happened. They recovered from alcoholism. So, what does the word recovered mean? We already went through it in some previous videos, but I'm talking about our message of hope in hopeless times currently. So if you are not giving the newcomer this message that I'm sharing with you, you're doing them a disservice. Many people will tell you all the time, we never recover. It's a lifelong process. You're just gonna keep doing it you're never gonna get it. But when they said they had already done it, why are we saying you never get it? That's not hope. Watch this. To recover means to regain health of body and mind. We know that. Go to the forward of the first edition. It tells us plainly. It simply says, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women, there they go again telling you their story and their account, who have recovered, ED, from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. We already know seemingly means apparently. State of mind, mental, and body. Why? Because addiction is a mental obsession plus a physical, a mental obsession, a physical obsession, and a abnormal reaction. A mental obsession, physical craving produces an abnormal reaction. One is too many and 1,000 isn't enough, excuse me. Now watch this. It goes on to say, to show other alcoholics precisely how we recovered is the main purpose of this book. That's why this message in the front of the book on the story page tells us this is their experience, and our message is you can recover from alcoholism. It never said just to be clean. It never said to stop at sobriety, because we just found that a man who still thinks that sobriety is enough is unwise. But when you tell a person they can holistically recover from alcoholism, and in the next video, I'm going to get more in depth on alcoholism because there's a misconception about it. If you're not telling a new person that they can recover from this, you're doing them a disservice. I want to show you something. What is the definition or description of the person who has recovered? Next video, I'll tell you when and how, but right now I'm laying the groundwork so you can see what it feels like to become a recovered person. The best definition is found on the bottom of page 84. Last paragraph. This is the description of a recovered person. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. You mean to tell me you're not even fighting yourself? For by this time, sanity will have returned. Wait a minute, sanity came back in step 2. We will be seldomly interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. I used to go for it, now I'm doing this. We react sanely and normally. Why? We used to react insanely and abnormally. And we find that this has happened automatically. Why? Because God is doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. We will see that our new attitude or new way of thinking towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. Notice this, it just comes. That's the miracle of it. A miracle is something you cannot explain with natural words. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding it. You mean to tell me I can go wherever I need to go? Absolutely. The big book tells us that. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality. That's all life is about, being safe and protected. When you recover, you discover all of these. Watch what it's going to say. We have not sworn off. Brace yourself, because when I show you this, they're going to know I told you. Instead, the problem has been removed, but they told you we never do recover. Are they in alignment with the message? It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. I don't even have fears no more. That's our experience. That's the people that told you this story, the more than 100 men and women. That's how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Notice fit spiritual condition didn't say fit mental or physical condition. Fit spiritual condition, I want you to notice when you recover. Notice, if you go back to page 84, you recover after step 9, because this precedes the second paragraph on the page after the 9th step promises, step 10. Because the 9th step promises are found on the bottom of page 83 on to 84. And it ends with, are these extravagant promises? The 9th step promises. We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. What determines quickly or slowly? Here it is. They will always materialize if you work for them. When should you be working for them? Now. You remember what we talked about? Now is when you need to recover. And then it goes on to step 10. And notice after the bottom, on the bottom of page 84, gives us the description of the recovered person. The first 9 steps, as I told you, help you recover. 10, 11, and 12 help you maintain your recovery. Now notice the first paragraph on 85. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. Notice what it says. The spiritual program of action is basically step 3 through 12. And rest on our laurels. We're sitting on them. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. What they told me was cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it was too much for me. We are not cured of alcoholism. I like to read that again. We are not, Abraham is not cured of alcoholism, but Abraham has recovered from alcoholism, because if you remember the story page, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. What we have is a daily reprieve, watch this, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. What is our spiritual condition? It repeats it again when we get the first 9 steps out of the way, because they are divided into 3 subdivisions. The first 3 steps helped me get back connected to the source because I had no power. 4, 5, and 6 helped me now start to get right with me, because guess what? I used because I didn't like the way I felt. Why didn't I used because I liked the way the drug made me feel, simply because I didn't like the way I made me feel. Steps 7, 8, 9 helped me repair the wreckage of my past. So now, guess what? I'm no longer a hurt person who has hurt people, because I've repaired the wreckage of my past. So now I'm spiritually fit. 10, 11, and 12 helps me maintain that on a daily basis. Every day is a day when I must carry the vision of God's will into all of my activities. Why? Because now I went from self-will to God's will. That's all a recovered person is. One who is no longer interested in the fulfillment of self-will, but is inquisitive on how to pursue fulfilling God's will. How can I best serve thee? Meaning God. Thy will, not mine, be done. Notice something. The entertainer or the person who doesn't give you hope will tell you crazy stuff like, look where your best thinking got you. And we have to remove those negative things in recovery. They're called negative stigmas in recovery. We have to give people an upgrade, not a degrade, because recovery is about reconciliation and not condemnation. Notice this. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our will or thinking power along this line all we wish. Why? It's the proper use of the will. So I'm going to apologize on behalf of the person who told you, look where your best thinking got you, and I'm going to rephrase it. You did not use your thinking or your will properly because maybe you were never introduced or taught how to do so. But once you get to step 9, you get that. Now let's look at the message. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him, capital meaning God, who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, the first 9 steps, we have begun to sense the flow of His, capital, Spirit, capital, into us. We went from being self-centered to God-centered. Watch this. To some extent, we have become God-conscious. I told you, you're no longer self-conscious, thinking about self, but now you have become God-conscious, thinking about how to fulfill His will as opposed to your own. We have begun to develop this vital 6th sense because, watch this, drugs are mind and mood altering substances. They compromise your 5 senses, but you notice they don't compromise your 6. Why? Because spirit is the 6th sense and it is the solution. We have begun to develop this vital 6th sense, meaning God's conscious, but we must go further, and that means more action, because faith without works is dead. So what I want to conclude, this is a very simple video. What I want to conclude, our message is hope. And our message is simply to the person who is still suffering, you can recover from your alcoholism fully if you follow certain steps. So I'm going to do a part 2 to this video, but I wanted to lay the groundwork on what the message was not, which is just being clean. We're not going to settle for being clean. We start off being clean because we have to start off with entire abstinence. I haven't used any mind or mood altering substances in the last almost 40 years coming up in November. However, not using isn't the message. Sobriety, as we saw, a man is unthinking or unwise if he settles just to be sober, because guess what sobriety is? Sobriety simply means soundness of mind. You're sober, now what? See, I know a lot of people that were sober that relapsed, right? And we'll get off into that too, because this is a, watch this, there's no chemical solution for your spiritual problem. The next video, we'll talk about what the story page says, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. We will talk about the problem. I just told you what to look forward to. And if you read the definition for a recovered person, like we just did, on the last paragraph on 84 and page 85, you will see what to expect. You know why? Here's the Abrahamism. You will always experience what you expect. And guess what? If you are a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, we expect you to recover. How can you sponsor somebody if you haven't? I hope this video has empowered you in these saddening times to give you hope that you can recover. Because guess what? Until you do recover, you are in a bad situation, right? So look, I know you can. I believe God you will. Have faith, and you know what? Put some action to it. This is your big brother Abraham coming to you. Once again, leave me a comment. Please, by all means, share these videos with your friends. And you know what? As Bill told Ebby, will I have this? Absolutely I can. You can have it too if you're willing to pay the price for it. And the price is you have to destroy self-centeredness and embrace God-centeredness. Thank you. I hope everything works out well for you. Talk to you in part 2 of what is the message. Bye.